Good evening and welcome, and thank you all very much for coming. So I spent the last 2 years doing research into building high-performing teams, and in particular how the role of leaders is evolving on that journey. I've interviewed dozens and dozens of CEOs, entrepreneurs, elite coaches, soldiers and so on to try and unpack how do you build these high-performing teams. So I've narrowed it down to 6 key principles which we call Summit. So the first principle is around style, and traditionally leaders have used the Christmas tree approach. So it's layers and layers of management with a star at the top. And the star is the boss, the CEO, who uses a command and control approach to tell all the minions what to do. And the problem with this old approach is that business is now so complex, you need more than one decision maker. And business is moving so quickly, you can't wait for things to go up and down the chain of command. So the solution now is to turn this Christmas tree upside down. So the star needs to be at the bottom. So you as a leader, your role is to nurture, to protect, and to serve your people. We need to have flatter structures where we use teams of teams. So everyone knows the common purpose, the common mission, but every team is empowered to go and execute on their part of the strategy. So the second principle is called Unbounded leadership. I was recently in the Serengeti with my family, and there are these vast verdant plains that stretched as far as the eye could see. And we saw all these herdsmen with their flocks of goat and sheep, and we wondered how they mustered them because there were no fences. So I went up and I asked one of them, how do they do it? And they said they use a centred approach. They use the water holes rather than fences. And I thought that we, as leaders, could do the same thing. Traditionally, we've used rules, lots of rules on what to wear, when to get to work, who you have to get authority from, and so on. And the problem with all these rules is it stifles initiative, and you need a bureaucracy to enforce it. And bureaucracy is the enemy of agility. So the solution here is quite complex. You've got to treat your people like adults. Trust that they will do what's in the best interest of your business. And I find that when you do that, they very rarely let you down. So this next one is MIQs, which is most important question. This is about building a trident to battle with dragons, a complex analogy, so I'll explain it to you. So great leaders know that high-performing teams work in flow. Flow is a mind state where you're hyper-focused and hyper-productive. In fact, CEOs report being up to 5 times more productive and 3 times more creative. So you in flow can solve problems that the normal you cannot. To get into flow, you need 3 things, which I call the trident: IQ, EQ and PQ. So hopefully you know what IQ is. These are the rational aspects. It's clear, constant feedback, known objectives. The EQ is the emotional aspects. It's about trust, it's about collaboration, it's about being playful. The third element, PQ, is about the purpose quotient. And this is the most complex and most hard to define. And in fact, most executives report that this is the main reason they can't get into flow, right? So what is purpose? We'll talk about it a bit more later, but it's really, is the work we're doing important? Is it meaningful? Are we making a difference? So now we understand the trident, we need to understand the dragon. And the dragon is the most complex problems we're grappling with as leaders. They're the things we can't solve. There's too many moving parts. We struggle with it. That's when the MIQ comes in. Developed by Josh Waitzkin, famous American chess player, who argued this should approach these problems in 3 phases: pose, release, and then attack. So he suggested in the evening, write these questions down. What are the problems that are the most important for you to solve? And then release. Literally go and have a shower, meditate, read a book, whatever it is you do to relax. And then when you wake up, first thing, early in the morning, you attack those problems. Don't look at CNN, don't read your emails, don't look at other cognitive tasks. Literally wake up and attack those problems. This is really a combination of flow, but also diffuse or passive thinking. So when you wake up at whatever time, 5:30 in the morning, your hair should be on fire, ready to solve those problems. So again, build the trident to attack the dragons. The next principle is around meaning. So a lot of leaders think that the meaning or the purpose of their business is to make profit, but really profit's an outcome. And some also think it's kind of their mission or their vision or even their strategy. But your mission is what you do, and your vision is what will I look like when I get there, and your strategy is, well, how am I going to get there? And what's missing, of course, is the why. What's the purpose behind what we're doing? And purpose is so important. They found in a recent study that those that had purpose-driven organisations outperform their competitors by 3 times. And if that wasn't enough, it also drives and releases flow, and more importantly, and this statistic's quite mind-blowing, 90% of employees in purpose-driven organisations were engaged versus the competitors' 30%. So I kind of rest my case around meaning. So we know what meaning is not. Well, what is meaning then? So some leaders try and tell stories about good to great, the Jim Collins narrative. That's fine. We're doing right, okay now, but if we pull together, we could be number 1. That's a good story. The second story is survival. Hang on, guys, we're really in trouble. Costs are growing faster than revenue. If we don't pull up our socks, we're dead. Not a bad story as well, but only motivates 1/5 of your people. To motivate all of them, you need to tell 5 stories. And it's not just about the company, it's about the community, it's about your clients, it's about your teams and your individuals. So for example, for us at Hamilton Lock, we don't just talk about our impact on the company, but it's our impact on the community. We want to find partners that have the same purpose and values as us, empowering people to be the change. For our clients, we want to be vital to their deals, and we want to help them to navigate through the treacherous waters of current business. For our teams, we want to create an environment where it's nurturing, it's energising, it's vibrant. And then for the individuals, we want to take them on a journey of growth, not just as a lawyer, but as a human being and a leader. And I find when you can tell those 5 stories, it becomes a North Star, hence the compass. It becomes your North Star that helps you navigate through the direction of your business. Okay, the next aspect is being intentional about culture. Many leaders think that culture is organic, it's unshapable and probably unimportant. But a recent survey found that 9 out of 10 successful companies believe that their culture was critical to their success. So how do we build and protect the right culture? First of all, we need to understand it's like an iceberg, right? Above the line, the tip of it is the formal aspects. This is the pretty posters on a wall. It's the 1 or 2 lines in your business plan saying, we've got a great culture. But the reality is below the surface is where it all happens. This is how we treat each other every day. It's the words that are said behind closed doors when we think no one is listening. And it's the worst behaviours we walk past. So to build culture, we need to be intentional and deliberate about what we want it to smell, touch and look like. And probably most importantly, we need to co-create it with our people. If you tell them this is the culture we're going to have, it's going to go in one ear and out the other, and they won't buy into it. A study found that they got a group of people and gave them lottery tickets. You had the test group and the control group. The control group were given a lottery ticket with the numbers filled in. The test group were allowed to write their own numbers in. A few minutes before the numbers were drawn, they bought the tickets back. The people who wrote their own ticket wanted 5 times as much money, leading researchers to believe that when your team writes a ticket, they're more committed to the outcome. Okay, so the last principle is talent. I recently found out through one of those genealogically tests that I was related to a Viking raider known as Bluetooth, who became the King of Norway, which is awesome heritage. I'm very excited, and it might explain why as a young child I used to wear a winged helmet and run around to the neighbours' back gardens and liberate their toys. Just joking, I stole the toys. So I like to imagine Bluetooth getting ready to go on a raid, and he'd be sailing across the sea, so he's built this magnificent ship ready for this long voyage, and he's now got to figure out who's going to be on the ship, right? And there's only literally a number of seats on that ship, so he had to be very careful about the traits of the people he would have on his vessel. And for me, it would be agility, adaptability, courage, grit, and probably a bit of a sense of humour would help. But also from a skill set point of view, you want to have a bit of a mixture. You don't want everyone who just fights. You want people who can row and sail and be medics and cook and so on. So I think the talent aspect is being very clear about the traits that suit you and the skills that you need in a mixture. Because remember, the skills you need for a Viking ship are very different from, say, a cruise liner. So this talent is so incredibly important that a McKinsey survey recently done found that high-performing people in very complex roles outperform the average by 8 times. So literally, a high-performing team that's small will beat a big average team of B players and can do in 1 or 2 years what a bigger team might take 4 or 5 years to achieve. So, it's really simple, right? To build high-performing teams, all this research and all these interviews show that all you need to do is get a Viking helmet, get your North Star, navigate to the Serengeti, chop down a Christmas tree, set it on fire with a lottery ticket, and then fight a dragon with a trident. No. But no, in all seriousness, I think being a leader is an honour and a privilege. And if you think about it, when we empower our people and we trust them to do the right thing, we protect our culture and we never, ever compromise on our talent, remarkable things will happen. So thank you very much for joining us.